Let's try thinking about it this way. Have you ever brought a new animal into your house? That's a completely new environment for them. You are uprooting them out of this old world that they were very comfortable with, this environment that they knew, and you're bringing them into a completely different place. It has different smells, it has different furniture, it has different expectations, it has different food, it has different animals. Most of what is different, however, is you, which is really hard for the animal because you're the one that they're supposed to please. But they don't know you, and they don't know what to expect from you, and they don't know how to interact and engage with you. And some animals, if they're very small, very young, some animals can make that transition relatively easily. But if you have an animal that's been beaten up by life a little bit, that's been abused, then they come into your house with all of that baggage, and they bring all of that with them into this new environment, and that makes it even worse for them. The Smith family, adopted a cat last summer from a rescue shelter. Shelter had gotten him off of the streets of Philadelphia, and so you can imagine what life was like for a cat on the streets of Philadelphia. We spent a little bit of time with him in the shelter. Seemed relatively well-adjusted, playful, engaging with people, so we brought him home. And immediately he's terrified. This is not what he's used to. And we tried to, limit that and just keep him in a small room in my office to, lower the stress level. And what did he do? He immediately started looking for something that felt like the cage that he had back at the shelter. And so he hid underneath my desk and would not come out. And he realized how terrifying this is for him. He could hardly stand to have us in the room with him. At one point, when he finally did decide that he was coming out, basically bolted down into the basement and found someplace to hide. I still have no idea where he was doing that. That's normal. It's what cats do. It's what a hurt, damaged animal does when you bring it into your world. Now, Sally works with people who volunteer in the shelters, and so she's learned that there are people who will adopt pets and expect the pet to act in their home exactly the way that it does in the shelter. And then they bring this pet home, it doesn't act that way, and they get offended because it doesn't trust me. And so the way that they deal with this lack of trust is they bring the pet back to the animal shelter. Think, well, that does not build trust. How do you build trust? You become someone who's consistently giving care, someone who is always putting food out even if the animal doesn't show up for the food. You give them the attention that they can handle. You enter into their world to the extent that they're willing to let you. You offer to play with them. You let them learn, no, you really can trust me. And you assume this is not going to happen overnight. We're setting ourselves on months, years, whatever, in order for this to take place, which means you're expecting things not to go well. You expect to get bit. You expect to be scratched. You expect to get ignored. You expect to have your things damaged. And you expect that you cannot take your frustrations out on this animal at the same time that you're trying to shepherd it into a different kind of life. Why am I talking about cats? Because there's an unflattering reality. To some extent, we're all a lot more like rescue animals than we'd really like to believe. To some extent, we've all gotten beaten up by life. And we come into the kingdom of God with those kind of experiences. We're transplanted from that other world into this completely different world, and it's a new world, and it's a scary world, and we don't know what to expect. And God is completely trustworthy. We should trust him, and we don't. We don't know what he's like. And so he teaches us, commits himself to teaching us to trust him. How does he do that? He takes us to places where it's very clear there isn't anything else in life apart from him. And the glory of God is that he persistently, patiently commits himself to doing that, knowing that one day we will completely trust him beyond anything we've ever imagined.